Welcome, everybody, to Highly Questionable Marketing, where we question all the bullshit going on LinkedIn. I am joined by the typical crew today, Joergen and Liz. We're going to jump right into this because we got two, I think, hot topics. And number one we want to talk about is from Jonathan Bland. And it's pretty simple. It just goes, should I pass my leads directly to my AEs, or should we have an SDR team? And I want to take two different takes on this. One, I actually want to talk about should marketing have SDR team, and should we skip the SDR function and just go straight to the AEs? And I'm just going to say it right now. Number one, do not have SDRs under marketing, period. I think it's a terrible, terrible idea. And I'm going to give you three reasons why it's the worst idea you can do. Number one, I think we've all been in organizations where if the BDR is under marketing, I actually say run away, because typically that BDR function used to be under sales. And it actually points to misalignment between sales and marketing, because marketing basically said at some point, sales, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. We're going to take the SDR team and we're going to start qualifying the leads before we pass them off to you. So I'd actually tell you to run away if the SDR team is under marketing. Number two, it actually drives the wrong behavior from your marketing team. So if you have a BDR team in marketing, your natural goal now is to feed that team. And you kind of do it through obligation. Whether you're trying to get demos, if they don't have people to call, your job in marketing is actually start feeding those guys. That becomes part of your mission. It's team sport. Like, I've been there. I've had BDRs and they're like, hey, we don't got enough shit to call. Like, can you guys help us out? Like, sure, I guess we can go do some lead gen or content syndication. And I think the last point, and I've done tons of analysis on this, the BDR function, honestly, in most orgs is a cost center. If you actually analyze it through LTV CAC analysis, it is one of the biggest costs that you're going to find in sales and marketing across the board. So that's kind of my 3 points. And I'll leave it like this. So should you have a BDR team? Maybe. It depends. If you have a very long sales cycle, high ACV, it might make sense in some instances. In most, it should not. But if that BDR team's under marketing, I would get out.
Oh my gosh, Jay, I couldn't disagree more. So let's tackle two things that break down with this post. The first assumption is that if you need a BDR, you have low lead quality. I think that's false. The second assumption it makes is that AEs are pretty much better at every single thing than BDRs. So first off, I think that the BDR role has honestly changed a lot over the last 5 years. And I think you have to pivot it. No VP of anything. I mean, I can speak for myself. I get people who reach out to me all the time. Nobody wants a 18 or 19-year-old just out of college to call you and talk to you about new tech you want. It's just not effective. The issue with having no BDRs and having an AE own the entire funnel is that the reality is, like, they just don't prospect, or they're trying to fit every single meeting into like a certain opportunity model, whether it's Spiced or MedPick or one of them. They take discovery calls and they just turn them into, are you spiced? Can I sell you now? And part of that is because sales' primary metric is selling items and their commission, right? Like, they're based off of that. So having no BDRs, I think for most companies is a no. That being said, I fully agree. It's a huge cost center. And I think the way that BDRs function does not work. I do believe they belong.
Wait, how can you say it's a huge cost center and then say you should have BDRs? That doesn't even work.
You need to pivot it. I'm saying that you need to pivot your BDRs. I think that the potential of BDRs is to be the people that are like the frontline experts of your company. You bring in, instead of a team of 5, BDRs just out of college, you bring in 2 people who know your product, they know your industry, they're thought leaders. You probably save money doing that. And then these become the people who man your discovery meetings, right? They do your consultative sales, while AEs go and focus on selling things in that bottom funnel, function. BDRs are able to do that kind of like top funnel. And I think BDRs and marketing, they align so well because in the end, you have the same goal. You're trying to create pipeline, right? You're trying to create meetings. And I think when they are actually aligned, it like sings a perfect song together.
But Liz, is this real though? Like the idea of a high-level BDR, not, somebody fresh out of college, somebody really senior, gravitas, like, is that a real thing in companies? Have you seen that?
I mean, I don't know that it's a real thing. It's definitely been like the transition, for example, even in higher education, us having to transition to, a BDR that actually can talk to like faculty or deans and hold up a conversation, right? Like, I mean, that was a necessity there, and they were kind of transitioning as I left. I think even where I'm at now, we're transitioning. I think this is going to become the next evolution of BDRs, that it will change from being just a person who's basically your internal call center to the people who are the consultative part of your lead gen.
It sounds like they're full funnel AEs to me then.
No, their goal is not the bottom funnel. They're not responsible for closing deals or working with procurement, right?
That's what they want to do, though. That's where this breaks down. Like, I don't disagree with the theory of it. It's just that if you get people at that sort of quality level who want to engage with buyers at that level, don't they want to close?
No, you just got to pay them right? Ideally, it's around compensation, right? Most of the time, I think BDRs want to become AEs because you make more money doing it. Why wouldn't you want to? So I think if you compensate a BDR to be that kind of top funnel role, and you compensate them like an AE, I doubt that many of them would want to jump into sales just for the
I get that you're talking about a transition and kind of pivot away and like a little bit aspirational here, right? Like I get that. But really, is this likely that organizations are going to pay BDRs more than they'll pay AEs?
No, that's a good point. I think they're going to have to. I think they will be forced to, because at least from what I've seen, the trend is that when people have conversations with people who are not like educated and read up in that industry, like they just fail and they stumble.
If an organization decides that they want to do that, they have to believe that opening a conversation is more valuable than closing a deal. And I can't see a CEO saying that.
But they're already making that decision by investing in a BDR, right? So it's not that you would replace every single AE with a BDR. AEs still have their function. That cost center still remains the same. I'm just saying you replace what you had with BDRs, which are basically like, we're paying robocallers, with somebody who's actually educated in your industry, right? Like we have 2 of them instead of 6, and they're high quality.
I could see as we transition topics that paying SDRs more, and shout out to SDRs, no matter what, that's a hard ass job. To be very clear, like I don't want to do that shit. Super hard job, but I could see them paying more because even as an AE, you'd be willing to accept less if you were getting quality handed over to you, honestly. Joergen doesn't know. That might be another topic for another debate. But I do want to take it over to topic 2. I know, Joergen, you had some hot points you wanted to bring in, so why don't we transition this?
Get ready for this one. Okay, so Lindsay, shout out to Lindsay, former marketer turned CEO out in Indy, had a hard-hitting post that is going to ruffle some feathers. You guys ready for this? I'm going to piss off some spreadsheet marketers. Let's go. I'm going to read the whole fucking post because it's that potent. If you think marketing is about numbers, you are so wrong. And if you're a leader teaching your team that marketing is about numbers, you're part of the problem. Marketing is about people, you guessed it, creating connections, strengthening relationships, building trust. Numbers simply measure these things, which means numbers are important, but they are not what marketing is all about. Woo! All right, so obviously, like no serious marketer is going to say, fuck data, I don't care about data. Numbers are trash, quant is garbage, get the math out of here. Nobody's going to say that. But this is a conversation about what comes first and what is this ultimately about. And marketing is about understanding and connecting with people. I have so much to say about this, but I'm going to pause for a second so somebody can get some of their math shit into this if they want.
Gosh, I just feel so passionately against this post. I mean, I'm an ops person at the heart, right? I mean, what does this even mean? It's just a BS post, to be honest. It's not really even a good piece of advice. I mean, leadership is about people. It's about developing people into careers. It's about doubling their salaries, getting them the professional development. And when people are taken care of, they perform well, they write good marketing. If you have a content marketer, they will write great content if you create a good relationship with them, right? To me, marketing is about growing the business, and to talk about abandoning metrics to grow a business, it's just not possible. Marketing is a science now. It should have always been a science. We just never had the ability to measure it. And don't get me wrong, I think understanding what your customers say, and part of that is part of the iterative process, but how do you even know the efficacy of that relationship building or your content or your message without metrics. Like, if anything, they belong together and they hold hands. You can't just say, oh, it's the relationships. Like, it's just BS. I mean, it's not that it's BS. It's just you're talking about growing a team and leadership. You're not talking about marketing.
I wonder too, though, if she's talking about people as in like building awareness with people and your brand, not just the people internally.
It's so
and
BS.
That's what it
and
is.
I agree, Liz. I think it is bullshit to a point. Like, it's that feel good shit that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like back
it's
when
like,
Samos used
oh,
to be
people.
like, yeah, back when
Fuck numbers.
Like Samos used to be like measured on like the prettiest picture you could create, right? Like, I made a beautiful logo and like beautiful stock photos of people frolicking in a field. Like, that does nothing. It doesn't grow your business. Like, yeah, it might make somebody feel good when they scroll past it, but it doesn't likely motivate them to click.
What you got, Joergen?
You're so far away from the point. Like, you are not even close to talking about the real point. The point is that there is somebody on the other side that you're trying to get to give you money. All right? That's the point, right? Nobody's arguing against the numbers, abandoning metrics, none of this crazy shit. That's what math marketers always go to. No, but like spreadsheet marketers always, you can't abandon the metrics. That's what's holding this whole thing together.
But
it's like, sure.
How do you know what resonates with somebody? Okay, so let's say like you make a post and you feel like, oh, this really connects to my audience. Like, how do you know if it actually does without numbers, right? Like,
you gotta feel it.
You just gotta feel it. Like, I got a feeling.
How do you know with numbers? What are you telling me that like open rates on emails and clicks and impress? Like, is that really it?
Yeah,
the thing is this.
What do you have to validate your assumptions? You know what they say about assume, right? It makes sense.
You have to get another human being to validate it as a human being.
Yeah, but your validation
your actions represent. Because all the shit can be, we manipulate this shit all day long.
But your feelings as a person is so different. Like, you come from a different background, a different person, right? I'm a different person. Like, I might post something and take a completely different radical view to it. Like, without metrics
let me give you an example.
Let me
give you a real example from the world of metrics and business, all right? I market to senior IT buyers, all right? Senior IT buyers, right? So what are we going off of? Like, we're going off of like campaign metrics and stuff. We know that the only thing that matters is if they end up being a customer or not. Like, as far as numbers, the revenue number is what matters, right? That's the only thing. All the other shit in between is proxy shit that we use to justify our existence, largely, and it can still tell the wrong story. Like, it's a real challenge to get into the hearts and minds of IT buyers and truly be top of mind when they're ready to buy.
No, I do.
Don't catch it.
I slightly agree with that sentiment. It is very, very difficult. I just still think that without like metrics is your basis there, and not to say that you shouldn't have like alignment between message and metrics. It could not, like, you can't put out shitty content and like only depend on metrics, right? There's like some balance there, but I tend to run a very like metric run.
I wonder if it's less metrics, and I agree with Joergen's point, which is right. It's not the bullshit metrics. Number one, when we talk about numbers, I don't care about click rate, open rate. It's about revenue at the end of the day. But maybe it's not numbers. I think it's that things still need to be measured, right? Whatever you're doing, maybe it's not the numbers, but it's the measurement that matters, how you're measuring it.
But the way spreadsheet marketers go wrong is by focusing on the numbers first. The conversation is about what comes first, what's most important, what's the thing you actually need to think through at the end of your marketing day. You have to think through, did I get closer to making a connection with a person that I want to buy from me?
No,
okay, I think that's fair.
I with that. I really don't, but I still think that.
But not everybody acts accordingly.
Yeah.
How do you even know? Like, if somebody, okay, so say you put out, and I'm just like, giving examples, right? In actuality, how does this work? Okay, Jay and I have come up with a new narrative, right? Like, how do we know if it actually resonates with buyers? Like, we think it connects. We go to conferences, we read blogs, we talk to people, we talk to customers, we hear about what they say. We think it resonates, but then how do you know if you don't put it out there and then watch the metrics? I mean, I think a spreadsheet marketer, there's a validity to that. Like, you need to prove your point.
All right, so we got to wrap this up. But I think to Joergen's point, which he was getting at, and I think, Liz, you actually agree with, which was actually what you just talked about in that narrative example, which is most people start with the metrics, right? Oh, I have a lead goal. Now I'll go figure out what the hell I'm going to do, right? Where we came up with the strategy, and then we said, how are we going to measure this? And that might be some of the difference that we need to think about.
Liz,
So,
I'm pretty excited about part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5 on this topic.
Joergen and I will always be like doing brand versus ops. I think that'll always be our singular argument, right?
I just want to make sure we're measuring the shit that matters.
yep.
No.
All right. We're going to end it there. We got through 2. We'll get it on the flip side, and it sounds like we're going to continue this for a long time.